Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to the November 2nd, 2020 Board of County Commissioner meeting. On my left is Commissioner Aaron Mays, who represents District 3, and on my right is Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 2. I'm Bill Rippon, and I represent District 1. What do we have on first?
First item is item 3, consent agenda.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve this consent agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item 4, new business A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Commissioners, this morning we have 2 vouchers. The first voucher report, which is what we would call our normal voucher report or regular expenses, was $1,947,726.90. The highest expenditure on that was our JADO allotment and it was $721,549.83 from sales tax received. Next, that was payroll for our employees of $614,313. Other highlights was under bridge was $176,445.03. That was for the 69th Street over tributary to Lynn Creek, and also the 69th Street tributary over Lynn Creek. Those going to Finia and Turnip Seed for $51,000 and Reese Construction for $125,445.03. Also, there was under the event center, the Stormont Vale Event Center of $24,553.48. The other voucher report was our CARES Relief Fund. That was $278,183.61, which was based of community-based programs, including Doorstep, Helping Hands, Help Humane Society, Kansas Children's Discovery Center, the Kansas State High School, One Heart Project, Race Against Breast Cancer, YWCA, and then under schools, Shawnee Heights, USD 450, and under taxing authority, the Metropolitan Topeka Airport Authority. Having reviewed both voucher reports, I do not have any questions and would move for their approval.
I'll second. All right. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk, what's the next item?
There are no correction orders. Item A3, consider approval of resolution number 2020-58, authorizing a 2021 cereal malt beverage license for the Shack located at 2842 Southeast 29th Street in Topeka. And Commissioners, this begins our annual renewal of the cereal malt beverage licenses in the county. This has been reviewed by the Counselor's Office, and we have gotten both of our notifications from the KBI and the Township, and everything is in order, and we just request that you approve this.
I'll move for approval.
Second. The motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item B, planning, number 1, public hearing and consider approval of resolution number 2020-59, an amendment to special use permit SP 7811 to modify the existing landfill 7351 Northwest Highway 75 in Soldier Township to comply with the updates to the flood insurance rate map by FEMA.
The right case first. I'll start. Okay. As the county clerk has indicated, this is an amendment to a special use permit you adopted back in 1978 to establish a 198-acre landfill at the location that you see before you on the overhead. In 1993, the application was subsequently modified, and it's been operating for 42 years. without, as far as we're aware of, any complaints from KDHE as far as any environmental impacts. So I mean, they've been operating within the permit that they were granted by the state. In 2015, the flood insurance rate map was modified by FEMA, and a portion of the property is now located in the 100-year statutory floodplain. As a result of that designation, 15.3 acres of the property was required to be removed from the landfill, from the floodplain. They have done that. They've removed those 15.3 acres. FEMA is happy. KDHE is happy. Where the applicant is today, with this request, is trying to recoup the 15.3 acres that were removed in terms of the storage volume within that acreage. Basically, that amounts to 2.5 million cubic yards of material that was part of their permit, part of what you approved in 1978, that is now removed from their operation. When you see the site plan, when you see the site plan, here's what we're looking at. Right now, there's one peak. They want to establish a second peak on the property. The one on the right is the existing disposal area, and the one on the left is the proposed. What they've done is they've split the landfill space into two halves. You have all these drainage improvements that are running through the middle of the property where water is clarified and treated before it exits the property to the southeast. Basically, if this is approved, this would result in an average height increase of 12.5 feet on average across the entirety of the landfill, and there would be spots within the landfill. You can see those right in the center, where you see the contour lines comes right into the middle, makes a little peak. Those two peaks would be 25.5 feet on average above the current elevation of the landfill. So that's what it boils down to. It's 12.5 feet overall and 25.5 feet in those two locations. We sent a considerable number of letters to the residents who are surrounding the property. You see those in this exhibit. We had some concerns came up. Obviously, the height is the number one issue that we've heard about. There was a drainage issue that also was brought to our attention somewhere on the southeast corner of the property. We're not exactly sure where it's at right now. KDOT and the applicant have planned on meeting on the property to figure out if it's a KDOT issue or if it's a landfill issue, and see where they can work together. If the landfill is partly responsible, then the landfill would take care of its part of the issue. And if it was KDOT, then they would do the majority of the work. So that's, that was the one issue that we didn't have in the staff report discussed that came up at the Planning Commission meeting. There was some good information developed at the Planning Commission meeting that we didn't know for sure until we had that meeting. The life of the landfill, as it was explained by the applicant, is 41 years before it reaches its capacity that was permitted, and they have to cap it and restore the property with grass and other materials to make sure it's protected. They would have a 30-year monitoring period after that, where they're looking at methane gas, water impacts, and so forth. If the CUP amendment is not approved, then the life of the landfill will be 35 years before they reach their capacity, minus the 15.3 acres. So that's the difference between approving it or disapproving it. You have a 6-year shorter life period if it's not approved. This was a very difficult case for the staff, and I know the county commissioners feel the same way, because you have public responsibilities to require landfill storage, and you also have the private people who live around it who are obviously impacted. We didn't take any joy or comfort in making a recommendation. We fully understand that the impact on the neighbors, and The good thing about this case is if it's approved, we will, at the result of it, have a hard cap on what the height can be. As in the past, it's been kind of flexible and kind of wishy-washy. It wasn't clear what that number was. Basically, if the commission recommends approval, the staff has proposed these conditions be attached with the approval and the resolution. One is that the permits be issued by the KDHE, and they issue a letter of permit issuance to us. The landfill shall be developed in accordance with the design modifications. We have an extensive number of civil plan drawings, photo images of what the height's going to be. We have more mechanisms to control the landfill with this approval, if it is approved, than we've had in the past. So this condition number 2 would be able to help us hold their feet to the fire and keep the landfill in accordance with what they proposed today. Number 3 is more of the same. We wanted to comply with those plans, and the maximum height be capped at 1,190 feet above mean sea level elevation. Number 4 is the erosion condition that I spoke about a minute ago, that the outfall from the property, if they have a responsibility, that they would mitigate any erosion that's occurring. And number 5 is that all previous conditions of the SUP that was granted in 1978, 1980, and 1993, pardon me, are still in full force and effect, except as expressly amended by this application. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Cook?
Madam Clerk.
Chairman, do we need to open the hearing now? Do they need to open the public hearing after he's had his presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman, I think that our first step would be to disclose any ex parte communication that the board members have had before we make any motions for opening the meeting. I can relate that I have had emails from the landowners around the site expressing their concerns with the request. Additionally, in July, I had a meeting with representatives from the applicant and with the applicant regarding their request. And then I've also had a communication with a planning commission member regarding the decision that they made and the recommendation to the Shawnee County Commission. And so also expressing concerns from landowners that have been expressed to them. So those are the ex parte communications that I have had.
I have had, I think, 12 emails from residents that live around the landfill. I also had a meeting with the applicant, and I had one phone conversation with a consultant for waste management.
I have also had quite a few emails from folks. I have had some conversations, both in person and on the phone with residents that live around there. I've talked with a member of the Planning Commission as well, and I also had a meeting with Waste Management. I do feel like I'm making an impartial decision, though.
Okay. Now we can open up for questions.
Well, it would be a motion for public. So at this time, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to open for public hearing.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Mr. Chairman, it may be best if we first have the request for those that would be in favor of the proposal, and then we would have those in opposition to the proposal, so that the record is clear and we can kind of keep the comments.
Can we ask questions to Randy first before we get into?
We would have that ability as well.
Okay. Randy, I had a couple questions. The new elevation that the applicant's looking for is 1190, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And before we were working off the number 1164. That was not a cap, or was that just a recommendation, or what was the thought on the 1164 that was established back in 2002?
Jim, you can help me out with this. There was a lot of history back and forth over the years of what the actual elevation was that they were capped at. The number that was agreed to did not come in front of this body. It was agreed to by all the parties in the county informally, but it didn't come back before this body for a we're going to ask for this height. It was kind of done outside the scope of how you would normally want to amend an SUP application.
Okay. And
If you want me to answer that real quick, a little bit
Sure.
more in depth. Joni Thadani, Assistant County Counselor for Shawnee County. Originally, when this was put into place back in the 1970s, the cap was 1,112, and that was per the site plan that was in place at the time. Those site plans get updated, I think every 5 years they do reports, but the site plans get updated and then they kind of come in together with this resolution because there's an operation plan, there's the site plan, they do these reports, the reports come to the county, they go to the Public Works Director, they go to the Shawnee County Health Officer, and then those reports in the long run make their way to the commissioners. At one point back in the 1980s, that site plan adjusted the height of the maximum height to the 1164. And it was approved by KDHE, and then it was included in that site plan, which then went through the process of going to the people at the county and then at the commissioners. It wasn't ever done officially by a resolution, but because it was a site plan that was part of these reports, once they got to the county, because nobody contested them, there was no issue, it was acquiesced by all parties. It was not at issue at the time. So that occurred back in the 1980s, and it came to light that this height had changed because some of the neighbors were upset with the height. And the problem is when you look at our resolution right now, it references the height of an adjacent point of land. Well, that 1164 didn't go over that adjacent point of land, and so there really wasn't any reason for it to come back to the commission to have it voted on to be approved. It just was a part of the process at the time. But that's been in operation since I think the 1990s has been operating off of that 1164. And so this now would increase that from the 1164 up to the 1190.
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
Ms. Thadani, the county code, specifically going to section 28-242, which is restrictions, subsection 11, references that in no case will the final elevations be higher than those of the adjacent land, and the completed topography shall closely resemble the surface before the landfill operations began. And this is the section that you were referencing, adjacent land.
Correct.
And then in 2002, didn't the county commission have a discussion as to what would be adjacent, and they determined that Colorado would not be adjacent?
I don't know that any, that's true. It was referenced whether or not the highest point was to the Rockies to the west. It did come in front of the board in 2002 as a discussion point. I don't believe that any vote occurred at that time. I do know that based on research of what had occurred at the time, that it was discussed what adjacent land meant, and I don't think that there's any, it would be no higher than any adjacent land in the surrounding area. I don't think that there's anything that specifically defines what the adjacent land is.
But at least going back to 2002, there was an understanding and an agreement, so for the last 18 years, that the height would be 1164 as the maximum height.
Correct. And Waste Management has been operating off of that, and when they applied for this modification, they indicated that the max height was the 1164.
Okay, and then when we look at the every 5 years, aren't there surveys done to determine that it is not exceeded that maximum height?
They are supposed to do the reports and indicate within those reports based on what the current site plan is The site plan, to my knowledge, has not been modified since the 1990s with that 1164.
In 2016, was there some sort of communication between the applicant and the county regarding raising it to the heights of 1180 and 1190?
That's correct. Back in 2015, 2016, the landfill was aware of this FEMA modification, and they were already in the process of trying to make the modifications that were needed for this purpose. And a request was made, or indication was made, to the planning department director at the time. And the request was that they were going to be increasing it to 1180 or 1190. The planning director at the time did send them a letter and ask for some additional information. And I don't believe that at that point anything further progressed, because I'm not aware of any CUP application or amendment being made at that time.
So this is an issue that has been rolling about for at least the last 5, if not last 4 years.
That's correct.
Okay. And then, but there was no action taken by the former planning director to raise that height?
No, because he didn't receive the application, to my knowledge.
When we talk about the concern of the lifespan of the facility, again, just trying to go back to our county code, under our county code 28-243, it says that it is expressly understood and agreed that the board, that meaning the Board of County Commissioners, shall not be liable or responsible for the operation or closing of the sanitary landfill. That would mean that we do not determine when it would cease.
That's correct.
And so if they reach a maximum height, that's really not the concern of the county commission as to whether or not that would cause it to cease. That is on the applicant.
That's correct. You know, the thing that we are dealing with here is that the landfill is operated not just based on our county regulations. It's based off of state laws and whatever regulations that they have to operate under in general. They come to us based on our zoning regulations. And so what we're here to do is to determine whether what they're wanting to do and how they operate based under their state laws can then conform to our zoning regulations.
And when we talk about our zoning regulations, I know that in review of the emails, there was many concerns about trash or debris that is blowing onto or coming onto other people's properties from the facility. The county code references back that the operator would be responsible for making sure debris does not leave their facility. So that would be a landowner issue that they would bring up to the planning commissioner or to the planning director?
You know, that's also an issue that's dealt with through state laws. They could address it with our planning director, but like you said, it refers that specific issue back to the landfill, and that's all based on regulations that they're operating under for state laws.
Okay.
All right. How much holding capacity, or I guess in months or years, how much more time do we have before we're full up to this? What is the 1190?
I'm actually going to defer that question to the applicant. Okay. I've heard numbers, but since I don't know the specifics, I think that would be better served by the applicant.
Okay. Commissioner Mays, you have any questions for Stan?
I do have questions. I'll save them.
Okay. All right. Let me get mine. Okay. As far as public comment, how many people are here to speak on this item? What do we have here?
It's about 5 or 6.
About 5 or 6, maybe a little more. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and start? If anybody, this is for people who are opposed to the to this proposal.
Mr. Chairman, it might make more sense if we have the applicant go first, so they can outline what their request is and what exactly the reason why they're making the request, and that may answer a lot of questions. I know that there's a lot of information that has been floating out among the landowners, but to hear it directly from the applicant as to why they're making this request.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm gonna need a little help getting to the main. Is it all right if I take yours off? Okay. Smells great. Good morning. First, I'd like to thank the,
Start with your name.
my name is Mike Hay. I'm joined here today, I'm with Waste Management. I'm the area manager of disposal, and I'd like to start by thanking the commission for the ability to explain what we're trying to do. Also with me today and in the audience is our district manager, Stone Junaud, and also Bill Upman, our area manager of engineering. This is the original plan. This was, I think this actual drawing was done early 90s. The site's been there since 1978. So back in the 90s, this was the original plan. This is what we're operating out under right now. There are some issues with this plan as it stands now because of, as you've heard talked about, the rezoning of the floodplain. So part of this plan ended up falling into that floodplain, so we have to do a redesign of some sort. As we went through the redesign, we decided we're trying to take water and force it around. So to orientate you with the site, the bottom of this map is Highway 75. So that would be to the east. So the right is to the north. And if you see the pond on the very top of the screen, that water there that comes onto us, watershed from our neighbors and some of our adjacent property, has to be directed around the site. So we're trying to take the water and push it all the way to the north and bring it around until it gets into the natural tributary. So that led us to, because we had to do a redesign already, that led us to looking at a better plan overall for stormwater and not try to force it around. So here's the drawing you've already seen. Put up on the screen. Again, this is orientated to the north is to the right. It takes the old plan, which is one giant hill, and it divides it into two hills in order to let that water flow through. And this is simply a plan that is meant to preserve space. The space is precious to us. It should be precious to the county. This is a site that is relied upon by the residents of the county, by the industries in the county, for safe disposal. Without the redesign, we lose about 2.5 million cubic yards of space. And I heard the question asked, that's about 6.5 years of space. And that's just relatively doing the math of how much comes in each day, the needs of the county, and just doing the math there. We had an engineering firm go around and take photographs to see what the impact would be with the redesign. So this drawing that you see here is the current plan, the current design, and these spots out in the countryside is where we took photographs of the site and then had an engineer do an artist rendition of what it would look like with the redesign. So this is looking from directly east of the site from US 75. The top photograph or drawing is what it will look like when it's closed and capped with the current design, and the bottom one is what the human eye would see with the redesign. So that's looking from Highway 75 to the west. The top photo here is existing site conditions, and this is looking along US 75, looking to the southwest. And again, the bottom is the redesign, and that you can see the effect of the change. This is looking from the south, there's a subdivision there, from the north edge of that subdivision, the end of a street, looking straight to the north. Again, the top photograph is what it will look like with the current design. And as you can see, it doesn't look much different with the new design. This is photograph location number 8. It's looking northwest towards the site. And again, similar view. You see the view with the redesign on the lower photo. This is from one of our neighbors' property, their driveways, along Jennings Road there, looking to the east. Again, the top is the current design, the bottom is the new design. This one probably has the most dramatic difference looking, because you can really, from this picture, see the difference of 2 hills rather than 1 hill. So this is looking from the southeast, and the bottom photograph is the new design. So in summary, the overall facility remains at its permitted size with this plan. We're addressing the 100-year floodplain and the regulations that KDHE has regarding that floodplain. It helps us maintain the natural flow of the stormwater, and it keeps the capacity at its current capacity and overall site life. Any questions?
The difference in years, if you were to, my notes here. If we were to stick with the 1164 as opposed to 1190, how many years would we lose of filled capacity at the site with the new plan?
It would be about 6.5 years.
About 6.5 years.
Yeah, it's directly related. If the volumes coming into the site were to significantly change, it would be short. It would lose more life than that.
All right.
This plan doesn't, the new plan doesn't change anything about how the site is operated, where the waste comes from, the amount of waste coming to it. It's virtually the same. It's just a different geometry to the site.
And currently, how many months or years do you have left till you get to that 1164 cap, or well, that elevation?
Well, if we kept the design the same, it would be 41 years of life.
But I mean the hill you have now, if you did nothing, how much capacity do you have if you don't open up the cell? If you don't switch to the new design, how much time do you have?
Well, in our current, where we're filling now, we have about 1.5 years of space,
Okay.
and we would start developing a new cell next year.
Commissioner Mays?
A couple questions. So, the developing the new cell, why hasn't that started yet?
Well, we develop them when we need them, and we
Okay.
haven't needed it yet. We would have to, without the redesign, we would have to develop one next year.
Okay, and how long does it take to get the new cell started? Like, to get it up to where you're actually putting debris in there? Or-
It's basically the construction season. We'd start building it probably in April and have it ready by about now, October.
Okay. So, one of the emails that I had received mentioned that there was there was trash being brought in on semi-trucks from Wichita. Is that true? That
No.
maybe filling the landfill quicker than it should be?
Yeah, there's no waste from Wichita coming that I'm aware of.
Okay. So what you're saying is that we have to approve a new site plan because FEMA is not going to allow the current plan to progress as it was originally intended. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And most of that has to do with the drainage aspects of it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so what you're proposing is that center piece where it would have been one mound. You're taking that and either adding it a little bit to each side, kind of just splitting it. Is that okay? All right. Just wanted to get that clarified. So-
Yes, that is clear.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Again, I just want to make sure that everyone heard and it's clear on the record, there is no out-of-county waste that's being brought into this facility.
I couldn't say there's no out of county. The majority of our waste, of the waste that comes there comes from Shawnee County. But a customer could just show up. They could come from another county next door and come to the site to dump.
But Waste Management is not contracting for the removal of waste from, say, Sedgwick County or Lyon County and bringing it to Shawnee County.
No.
Okay. And then, again, if there is no action taken or approved by this board and keeping the height at 1164, you would have approximately 1.5 years left before you would reach total capacity, correct?
No. The site has, right now, as it's designed, 41 years of life left. We're going to have to redesign part of it, and without raising it in height, we would lose that. But we're not going to, we would start developing in April a new cell, and we would continue to operate.
Okay, I think that we keep using the words 41 years of life. Are we using that 41 years of life going back to current today, 41 years left, or from 1978, 41 years of life of a facility?
41 years from today.
So if there's no action taken by this board, it's your belief that there's still another 41 years left without increasing the height of the,
No.
okay?
Right. If we are not permitted to redesign to this specification, we will lose that life. It would be 30, 33, 34 years.
From today. So you would still be able to operate the facility for another 30-plus years from today without increasing the height.
Yes.
And so there's not a 6-month or 8-month left on capacity for the facility today if this plan is not approved.
Correct. Yeah, we developed airspace, we would have to develop more,
Okay.
which because the current hill would get a little higher, we wouldn't have to do that immediately next year. We'd probably do it the following year. It's just, it's understanding what's developed currently. We have to develop more. We do have that capacity.
And you do have land available for the addition of a third cell.
We do own property, yes.
And so that is a permitting process that would go through the Kansas Department of Health and Environment?
Yes, that would be a landfill expansion.
And then there's an application process and public hearing on that.
Absolutely.
But again, I just want to make sure that, again, pardon me, I'm a little bit dense this morning, it's a Monday.
Me too.
We have 2 towers in operation, correct, right now today?
I didn't hear that.
There are two towers, 2 cells that are in operation today,
No.
No, just one.
just one. And your request is that if you were allowed to cut a channel through to redirect the water, you would add more height, bringing it up to a maximum height of 1,190.
Yes.
And by doing that, you would have 41 years from today as opposed to 33 years from today.
Right.
But if this action is denied by the board, you still have the ability to add to that facility for another 33 years.
Yes.
Why would you then start working on your next cell if you're able to use this facility for another 33 years? What's the rush?
Can you ask the question again?
Sure. And again, when you say there's 33 years left, is that including not opening up a third cell, or are you counting that third cell as opening as the 33 years?
Yes, we would have to develop another cell. We have to develop landfill space regardless. Let me go back to the drawing a little bit. The old plan, this is what we have permitted now. It's one hill. We've already been developing the portion that's on the left. So with the redesign, we would continue to fill to these grades on this unit and then close it down and then begin development in the next unit to the north first. Without the approval, we would have to immediately develop part of the old design. We'd probably still do some sort of redesign because we've got to, I mean, we have to recognize the floodplain.
Okay, the question, what is the elevation? You can see there's a lighter area in the top of each hill. What is the elevation at the bottom of that white area, that contour? You know what I'm saying? It goes up so high and then it changes to a lighter colored area. Is that area that's above the 1190 or?
Yeah, what you're seeing there is just where you see how they call it out as a 4-to-1 slope? And then at the top, the slope becomes a smoother slope, so it's steeper. The darker areas are just steeper.
Okay.
Just a function of the contours.
Do you have a cursor that could show me where the 1190 would, is that the number? 1190 would be?
So, right there.
That would be 1190.
Yeah, just that little,
So that's actually the top, the way it's designed right
Yes.
now.
The peak.
yes, and then
Okay.
and then on the other unit, that little triangle.
Yes. Mr. Mays.
A couple of questions about this and then also the current plan and comparing the two. On this, where it says south unit upside down, there's a dark line there between the darker gray and the white. And then there's another line, just right below that, that kind of circles the cap. Are those, I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out what exactly those lines are. Is that the current plan versus the proposed plan, or?
Yeah, so that, going to the top of the page below south of the unit where you see that change and there's no longer contours, that's area of the landfill that's already been capped and closed, so nothing would change. We wouldn't remove that cap. So this is a redesign, taking those grades from there. So you were asking about this section here?
Actually, no, I wasn't. So that, right now, that is stuff that's already been capped.
Yeah, that area is closed off, yeah.
Okay. So there's no changes to that at all? All right. So that was actually another question, but what I'm referring to is right here, there's a dark line that goes around, and then right here, there's another dark line. What's the purpose of those? I guess I'm trying
The dark lines are 10-foot contour lines, and then all the little ones in between it, the lighter ones, are 2-foot.
Okay,
it's
so
just showing-
that represents 10 feet from one to the next. So
Yeah.
where are we at right now on that map in terms of elevation?
Bill? 1155.
11 feet. So we have another 9 feet approximately to go. And that would take about a year and a half, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of this is being driven by FEMA and their flood maps. When did we know about that?
Oh, they've been
Eh,
2016.
2000, were you contacted by FEMA, or was it KDHE, or who contacts you on
How does that work, Bill?
internal? Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Do we know that has this proposed design been presented to KDHE and FEMA and already approved? And if it's modified in any way, does it have to go back through that process again?
Yes, well, it has to. We were considering, it gets considered a significant modification, so they'll post notice for it. They might choose to have a hearing if there's interest about it. but they'll look at it technically, and they are aware of this design, right? This has been in front of them, so fundamentally, they agree with it.
Okay.
And this is the first process to that, though. They won't even talk to us any further until zoning is answered.
Could you speak to the process of capping this when the time comes? You know, I mean, you said you got a year and a half. I assume that's a year and a half of adding to it. But then the process of capping it after that, is that immediate? Or, I mean, is that a pretty quick process, or does that take another year, or?
Yeah, once you are finished in an area, you have either the choice to put what's called intermediate cover down, or final cap has to start being constructed. So the cap is the more permanent. It what seals water from getting into the landfill any further, and keeps gases from getting out, and it has a vegetation component to it and makes it look nice.
When you do your final grade, do you then seed it or vegetate it in some fashion?
Right.
Okay. I know there's some methane well system out there. Would that keep going for a number of years, or?
Yeah, generally we see recoverable amounts of gas for about 30 years after you close.
30 years. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
What did you say your current height is?
1155.
1150, 55.
Okay. Because I'm noting that in 2002, the plateau was elevated at 1136. So in 18 years, you've gone up 20 feet?
Yeah, because cells were developed horizontally, so it was, if you look at this unit here, it wasn't all built. We built new ones horizontally next to it and then filled those. So it's possible the elevation was up at 1130, and then you developed another one next to it, just like, you know, we proposed to do here with the new unit.
So,
See,
as you fill, do you have like a layer of dirt, a lift that you put in so often?
yes.
I see.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Kevin, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll now call for those that want to speak in opposition. What's this?
Is there anyone else in favor?
Oh, is there anyone else in favor of this? Okay. Now I'll ask for anyone of opposite, who is opposed to come and speak. Yes, come on up. When you come up, please state your name.
Yes, my name is Scott Huston, and I'm a local resident. I live about a mile approximately from the landfill. I'm also a business owner, a couple miles from the landfill. So I got a few things to mention. I'm glad that we're having the hearing, because I feel like I've just learned stuff here this morning that was maybe even different than what had been circulating around. I've spoke with some of you. I've been involved in some of the emails going upstream. I'm going to kind of go through 5 little points here, no specific order, but the first thing I would say is to the 1,190 feet, that's the same height as Burnett's Mound, which is, to my understanding, the highest point in Topeka. So to go to 1,190 feet, I feel, in my opinion, Burnett's Mound is considered, if you want to get to the highest point in Topeka and see the whole city, that's where you go. Now we'll have that also in North Topeka, except for obviously it being a dump. And, for all of us who live in close proximity to that, that's not an appealing thing. We're not looking for a mountain of that sort next to our homes. visible from the highway, from anybody coming and going into North Topeka. That's not what we want. And as far as the community, I can assure you, it's not just 10 or 15 people that live around the landfill. We're talking about hundreds of people who have concerns and issues. I could tell you that I've personally spoke to at least that many people myself, and I don't know everybody. So I know for sure this is a way larger concern than 10 or 15 people. It's hundreds to, at least. I know one of you guys asked about Wichita bringing stuff in and outside counties bringing things in, and I've heard that myself. Of course, I don't know what's true, what's not. I don't know if there's means to be able to verify that and to look into that, but clearly if that had happened, if that had occurred, and money was taken to handle the trash from other counties or cities, that would definitely, contradict anything in terms of asking, hey, can we go higher here because, we potentially took money from outside, take that money and use that to expedite the process of the next sale, would be my opinion. If that happened. I don't know if it did. And as far as the timetable, sitting here this morning, this is one of the new things I found out today was, I had heard, hey, in 6 months, they're hitting capacity and, something's got to give. And that's why we're meeting here today, right now. That's not the case, I guess. Sounds like there's a year and a half before the gun's put to the head, if you would. That's, I guess, pretty interesting to me. But even more interesting to me would be if this was known in 2016, this easily, the next cell, the process of being prepared and ready to go to the next phase, there's more than enough time to make that happen. Again, I have 61 acres basically directly to the south of the landfill. In the last 60 days, I built a 3.5 acre pond. I rebuilt 10 terraces, and I built a 60 by 100 building and poured the concrete and ran plumbing to it in about 45 days. Surely in 4.5 years, a lot of dirt work could happen, right? A lot of architects and general contractors and people could have been brought in that know way better than me and could have got a lot done pretty quick. I don't think we should be sitting here talking now, today, as this is an urgent thing that we need to decide right now, when they've had plenty of time to figure it out. That would be my opinion. And then aside from those dynamics, I think in general speaking, again, I live in a neighborhood that's about a mile from the landfill. I've sent pictures in. I see a lot of, thousands of birds, the seagulls in the dump, and then I see them in my pond behind my house, an hour later after they ate the garbage and whatever they were into over there. I don't know what waste they're into, but I know they bring it over to my pond, our streams, our waterways, and that happens every day. I know I smell the dump. I've been there for 14 years. When I first moved in, it was occasionally I would smell the dump, off and on. But I can tell you in the last year, the last couple years, it's more of like a weekly thing. You smell it on a regular basis. There has to be a reason for that. And so more trash, more waste in the exact same spot, to me, seems like a bad thing for anybody that lives in that area. It's only going to get worse as it has been getting worse. So it would be, to my, my opinion, taken in another direction would probably be beneficial, whichever direction that would be. I also know that this isn't just an issue for those of us 1 mile away. I know multiple people who, some of them live on the Jennings Road, which was one of their pictures. I've heard residents that live on Jennings talking about if they go higher, we're moving, because the only view we have on our back deck is the dump. And if it's going up 25 feet higher, I'm done looking at those bulldozers and trucks and everything that's driving across the top of that hill. When we look at the hill, it's one thing to look at, oh, there's where the top of the ground is. There's trucks on top of that ground. There's there's big cats and bulldozers going across there. They go up another however many feet high. So you see all of those every day. So I would say within a 5 mile radius, I know people that live to the east as far as Nickel Road, that they can see it. And right now, they're like, well, right now it's right at the exact point of my tree line. If they go up 25 more feet, now they're in my view. No more sunset, now it's just the dump. It's not good. I know there's several prominent realtors here today that have been selling real estate specifically in North Topeka for decades, and I'm sure they're going to talk. All of their opinion is property values will continue to go down if the dump goes up, and that they already struggle and have struggled for years with people looking to go north. They've got a nice house for sale, then somebody comes to look at it and they go, oh, real nice house, oh, the dump. Yeah, I think I'll go southeast. That happens right now, let alone if it goes 25 feet higher. And if property values, again, I don't know if that would happen, but if it did, if property values could decrease because of that potentially, now we're talking about property tax because the value of the homes goes down. And that's revenue for the next 100 years that the county needs to collect from all the property owners in that area. I think that should be considered and looked at as well. I already kind of talked about the dates. It sounds like that's a moving target. As far as like with waste management, my opinion would be this, I believe they're a Fortune 500 company, big company, can afford a lot of attorneys and a lot of people to handle their business. As customers of waste management that pay them, again, I'm a business owner, I have customers. You take care of the customer. You do what you have to do for them to get their long-term business into the future for the next 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, whatever it is that you're after. So if expediting the process of getting the dirt work handled and the landfill appropriate costs you a little extra today, that's a good investment to make for the future that you're going to be here with us as your customer. So take care of the customer. Be a partner with us, because the only person that stands to gain in you going higher is you, because you don't have to spend the money immediately, and the group that loses is us. So it's a win-lose situation currently. Should be a win-win. However, we got to get there. I think that's all I got.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Next.
My name is Kenneth G. Etzel. I am here to speak in opposition to this also. As the last man up here, I own property just southeast of that hill, and it's very prominent from my entire property. My property, and I'm not sure what my elevation is, but I would say, I do know for a fact I can walk back on the upper portion of my property and see the Capitol Dome through a crotch of trees. That's how high I am. And that property, I hadn't thought about it until this morning, but I believe it's higher than what I am now. It is an eyesore. You see trash blowing all the time. He's right. You can see the excavators up there, the dozers pushing it, the trucks emptying into there. And I'm probably about a mile away. I can hear them. I can hear the backup alarms all day long of that equipment moving up there. And I hadn't even thought about the birds, and I have thousands of birds flying over my place. And it doesn't do my property values any good. Matter of fact, I'm building a new home for my wife and myself there on that property. And this is our dream home. This is our last home. And I was under the impression that it was about finished. I was hoping it was. It was green on the east side of that hill, and it looked okay. I thought, well, they're done. They're done. They're going to move over to another spot. And now I see they're bringing more trash in. It can't help my property values. It just can't. You can see it from my house. And it's even worse in the wintertime when the leaves are off the trees. And I've only got about 3 trees that might inhibit my vision from there. My other concern is water pollution. I've got a well. And I have concerns with that. I don't know what all of those issues would be, but I do have concerns that anytime you change God's country like that, there has to be other effects. And as far as the new flood maps, a lot of us have had to deal with that. It's affected a lot of people, and a lot of their ground, a lot of my ground that wasn't in the floodplain is now in the floodplain. And a lot of mine has some pretty good elevation to it that you wouldn't think would be in the floodplain, but the maps clearly show it. We've all had to deal with that, so we just need to make our own issues to get around that. I'm opposed to it going any further. I know we've got an agreement that they're going to build on this other mound and continue on with that contract, and that's the way it's got to be. But no, another 25 feet, I'm totally opposed to it. Or 12 feet, I'm sorry, I lost the number. I've learned a lot here today. I've been trying to soak it all up. But that was my main issue, just to tell you that I am a property owner here and I am opposed to it. And I've spoken to a lot of people that are opposed to it also. I expected them to be here today, but for whatever reason they're not. Like I say, I've reached out to you gentlemen, and I hope you will consider these factors when you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edsel.
Thank you.
Next.
Oh, we'll just stand up now.
Oh, we're supposed to take them.
Part of our county policy is that a year we do stand a stretch that we're not sitting too long, so.
You can go ahead and speak, though. We'll just be standing.
Want to have the next speaker come on up?
Next speaker, go ahead and come on up.
Is it okay?
Yep. Yes.
My name is Sally Brook, and I live at 6516 Northwest Kelshire Drive, the subdivision that's just south of the landfill. And I've lived there for almost 10 years. I'm also a realtor with Coldwell Banker for over 18 years. And yes, I do sell a lot of properties in North Topeka, so I'm concerned about my property as well as all of my neighbors. I've just got a few questions first. I'm not waiting on an answer, but why is the Metro News the publication of choice for Shawnee County when they know the residents do not read it? I'm sure it's cheaper to publicize something, but when we have a matter like this that could affect so many people, they only sent letters to properties that were 1,000 feet from the dump, which I'm less than a mile, and none of us received a letter. So at least put a story in the newspaper. Capital Journal is free if you want to put a story out. And then I was just curious who determined it was only necessary to notify the homeowners within 1,000 feet of the landfill, because it definitely affects everybody for at least a mile and then some. And I too have heard that Wichita was allowed to dump, and I know some of my friends said they do see Nemaha County trucks dumping, going in and out of the dump. So there is more than Shawnee County that is using the dump. And I'm just kind of curious, how much more money does Waste Management gain by getting this approved at the expense of our Shawnee County residents? Now, FEMA, I guess, they were notified in 2015 to 2016 about FEMA. In 2016 and 2017, Waste Management sold 4 properties that consisted of 50 acres near 78th and Jennings. Now, why couldn't this have been used for waste? None of this is in the flood zone. Now, I'm all for Shawnee County approving the millions of dollars that they did at 21st and Urish. I want to see Topeka be progressive, but I don't think this landfill should be affected. I mean, I think the people in Shawnee County should be safe and healthy. The landfill is an issue for all of Shawnee County. Raising the height, to me, is just a short-term Band-Aid. I believe that we should be researching for a new location that will support all of Shawnee County for years to come, instead of just a short fix that will in turn lower the value of so many property owners, thus lowering the taxes that the Shawnee County could be benefiting from. Now, I did take the liberty, and I'll be happy to just leave it with you, the one subdivision south of the landfill. I did all of the property values for every home in that subdivision and what their taxes are today, the 2020 tax evaluation. And I just said if they decreased only 28%, which I think it's going to decrease, the property values will decrease much more than that. But if they only decrease 28%, Shawnee County would be losing $51,330.79 the first year. In 10 years, that would be $513,330.79. I believe this money could be used to better the people in Shawnee County, and maybe research to do to find a new place for a new landfill. Thank you. And I'll be happy to leave this with your secretary if you want me to.
If you could leave that with the clerk, so then we could.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Sally, the reason why we put notice in the Metro News, we are required by statute to review any bids for being a legal publication, and those applications for bid, Madam Clerk, are due by June the 30th?
July 1st.
July 1st, thank you. And the Metro News is the only person who filed that application in the last year. And then as for our notice to landowners, that is required by statute, and by the planning director has to notify those individuals within that area. So,
Well, like sometimes when you talked about, you put out little news stories on the TV or whatever when there's a bridge problem. I mean, to me, at least that's a way of getting it out, so that people that are affected will know about it. I mean, I don't think there's very many people in this room that would have even known about it, because we were not notified, we did not get a letter, and as some of them have already spoke, we are affected.
absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question. Sally, before you walk off, I just have a quick question. As you mentioned, you'd sold a lot of those houses and things. You know, is the landfill not been, I mean, obviously the landfill was there before most of those houses. Was that not a factor in the sales of those properties?
I have had people, I had a house for sale on Northwest 86 probably 5 years ago. Had an open house, and people came, loved the house. Oh no, I don't want to live near the landfill, it smells, okay? And then I would say, well, I live just south of there. And, you know, very seldom do I smell anything. On occasion, which way the wind blows. But it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a detriment to me. I love my house, I love the area enough, but if it raises, it will be a detriment to me. And it will be difficult to sell the properties in the area if this does get higher.
Okay, thank you.
Sally, you were using a figure of 28%? Where did that come from?
Well, just from being a realtor and experience of a realtor, I thought 28% is, to me, a low estimate of what that would actually be if the landfill went higher and the whole world thought it's the smell, all it does, it smells like a dump, and you've got $275,000 to $500,000 homes. Do you know what the value of those would be? They wouldn't be $275,000 to $500,000 homes anymore. They would sell for much less. And I base that 28% as a low number. But if it were to raise and we could smell that every day, no. It would be the 28% would be more like a 40%, because we wouldn't be able to sell the homes.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Hello, I'm Erica Lichtenauer. I'm also a realtor here in Topeka. I've been selling real estate for over 15 years and predominantly sell in the north area. And I've sold many homes in and around Kelshire, and actually have one of my clients here. So I will speak that I do think it will affect property values. I currently live southwest, still have concerns regarding how far away you can see the dump, what it looks like when you drive by it, how it smells, the trash that escaped it. I drove by recently and took pictures of it myself. Besides the birds, the trash all over the side, and going into the highway. So there's those concerns for just people even visiting our community. I'll take it a step farther because I'm a mom, and that's the most important thing to me in my life, and knowing that I have kids that I've sold homes to, families that I've sold homes to. And when you just do a quick Google search of the effects of living near a dump, and the houses in Kelshire are 0.6. They're not a mile, they're 0.6 for the homes. Your quick Google search is gonna tell you that people that live near the dump suffer more from asthma, recurring flu, stomach pains, skin irritations, and those kind of things. So for me, I lived on Kelshire Road. I had a house there in the neighborhood. I could smell the dump. I had 3 little boys at the time. The dump was a concern. It wasn't my whole decision on moving, but I did move away from the dump. So I will state that part. And my kids' health was something that I discussed with my parents, my doctor, and so on. So just throwing that out there.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. Next.
My name's Lloyd Becker. I have land straight across from Mount Trash, and originally when I bought that, or had that land given to me from my dad, we were going to build in that little meadow. I sent an email to you guys, y'all don't know about this, but it was a nice quiet little meadow. Well, when they built a mountain there, right on the other side of the road from where I was going to build, traffic noise is terrific. And we didn't get a chance to build, and I'm glad now because of that, because I wouldn't want to live there with that traffic noise. Now I'm really concerned about a mountain there, that water, how they're going to control the amount of water coming off of that when a heavy rain comes through. I've got land that all the water that comes into the dump and out of the dump runs through my property, right by my property, and it's eroding my bottomland. I'm just wondering how they're going to, and there were ponds in that dump that aren't there anymore, so how can they control any kind of water runoff? You know, and now I'm concerned about the land. It's like, will I be able to sell it? Would anybody want that land? Anyway, I'll keep it short. That's my concerns, and thank you for consideration.
Lloyd, where in proximity are you? Are you at the southeast?
It's the south point, it's straight down.
So right about here then?
Yeah, right by where the S is and the, it's, I got the first land there, right there, and the water comes through right at the south end of my land and goes around it. You can usually see the creek line there.
So in the resolution, there's one line here that says that any erosion attributed to the drainage outfall from the landfill, but it specifically calls out the southeast corner of the subject property, and they would mitigate that. Is that in reference to your land?
I don't know.
No. Okay. So I mean, perhaps that's something we need to look at if he's having erosion problems also, whether or not that's a KDOT issue or landfill. I mean,
But what I'm getting at, there's no terraces, there's nothing to slow the water down. Once they cap that, it's going to just run down like a mountain. It's not going to get better. And, you know, I take hay off that land. The guy that I hired to take that hay off doesn't want to get too close to the ditch because he doesn't know it's washed out underneath. He may just lose his tractor right in the ditch. Anyway, I'm just kind of concerned about that. And like I said, down the road, what's that land going to be worth? That's why I don't really want it to go up any more than this. It's already higher than what I anticipated to ever get, you know?
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker.
Thank you.
Next.
My name is Brian Fox. I live in Kelshar Estates. I'll make this short and sweet. I am in opposition of a mountain going any higher. I lived farther previous to living in Kelshar, and I could smell it worse. And I don't know if it's just the wind direction or whatever, but I could smell the dump worse being farther away than even I am now, and I can still smell it. And it's not all the time, but it's aggravating when you step outside and you can smell it. I think Waste Management has a problem, and they want us to fix their problem. It's their problem to fix, and we're the ones that are going to be paying for it. So they have the money. If they have a third cell, which I thought I understood them saying, then why not develop that cell? So yeah, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Do we have anyone else? Okay.
Hello, my name is Jared Haynes. My wife and I are both real estate agents. We own land right around at 52nd and Button Road. We're probably 2 miles away. We also sell a lot of property up north. I went to Seaman. My parents live up north. I've lived up north my whole life. I can't currently smell it where I'm at, but I don't want to. I'm right across from Sterling Chase. A lot of homes there. Not the value of Kelshar. Kelshar homes are more expensive than Sterling Chase. That might flip. So we'll see how that goes. I don't have much to say other than I oppose it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We would allow the applicant to rebut anything that they heard or if they'd like to make any additional statements at this time.
Thank you. Just a few things to clarify, so I wasn't perceived to misspeak. After grouping with my group, the site did take waste from Wichita for about 3 to 5 months, about 18 years ago, before they got their landfill built. They were in a pickle, so none of it's being shipped there now, but I said that I wasn't aware of it. And Stone, what county? Mitchell County waste, there's a transfer station there that brings some waste, and Nema County brings a small amount too. The bulk of the waste comes from Shawnee.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question that came up while we were hearing. Approximately 8 years ago, Shawnee County adopted a recycling program. Waste Management invested significant money into their MRF recycling facility. Personally, it would appear to me from my household that we have less trash because we're putting more into our recycling. How has that impacted Waste Management and the Rolling Meadows facility? Are we seeing a difference in the trash accumulation in the amount of trash received as a result of the recycling programs?
Certainly. Every ton of recycling is therefore diverted from the landfill. So if you look at, you can't just look at waste receipts and it's a moving target, right? As the population grows, as industry grows, right now we're seeing a lot less commercial waste coming in because of the pandemic, but a lot more residential because people were holed up in their homes for so long, things like that. But there's no doubt you could look at every ton of recycling that gets done is purposely diverted from the landfill, so the landfill would have filled up faster.
And so when we're talking about a timetable or a lifespan of a facility, and given that that is a moving or rolling target based on how people dispose of their waste, where are we coming up with the 1.5 years left? Is that based on the pre-recycling, or is that based on current collection? Is that based on future trash habits of the Shawnee County consumer? Can you explain maybe a little bit more to how you get that metric?
Yeah, we fly the site, we'd call it a flyover. A plane flies over, takes a picture of the site. From that, a topographical map is developed and engineers take a look at, they know our current total height, and they'll tell us the amount of space left based on the picture of what there is right now and what we have to fill. And then we simply do the math of how much comes in each day, each month, each year. And that's how we come to, we really look at it in months, and we know we have about 16, 17 months of space.
Okay. And so again, 16 to 17 months of space is what you currently anticipate at this point?
That's what we have available short of developing a new cell.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Yes.
So the discussion on the third cell, the potential of a third cell. No, obviously, Waste Management owns some land adjacent to the property. At what point, I mean, if the intent is for that to be developed at some point into a third cell, you know, what's the timeline on that? Should that be included in this site map so that we know that 50 years down the road, this, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be here 50 years from now, but, you know, I mean, is it something that we need to start looking at now, or?
It would be a little premature now.
Okay.
Because the site does have 31 years to 41 years of life currently. It's not more important to anyone but our company, because this is what we do. We offer the service of picking up trash, and we have to have a place to go with it. In this area, this is the landfill. We'll probably, if I had to put a date on it, probably about 12 years before we're thinking we're running out of space, we would start looking at what are other options. Is it to develop another cell on this particular property, or is it somewhere else? We have to be ahead of that because they don't happen overnight.
Have there been any alternatives that you guys have considered? I mean, obviously, it seems like the majority of the pushback from the neighbors comes from the south side. So have there been any alternative plans with this to accommodate any of those concerns?
Well, we thought this was the best plan.
Okay.
We want to protect that space. It's important to us to preserve that and have it available. We put a lot of work into this plan. The 25 feet extension in height is for a very small area right at the very top. It's 12 feet overall. It's hardly noticeable to the human eye. I mean, you really have to look close to see that difference.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We're really looking at two separate requests. The first is the approval of creating the channel, and the second is the request to raise the height. But the request of creating the channel, is that an action that this board needs to take action on, or is this just already approved through FEMA? And I just want to make sure that we're clear on what actions are specifically being sought by the applicant today.
So Joni Thadani, Assistant County Counselor. Technically, yes, you should take action on approving the site plan in general. And the reason being is when a conditional use permit, or in this case, because of the age of the permit, a special permit, when you approve those to start off with, you include a site plan. And that site plan shows what the permit is based on. And so if they were to change it without updating the site plan and going through the approval here, especially to such a drastic change, they would no longer be operating based on the site plan that was approved originally. And so the legal answer should be, yes, you should approve the site plan because of how significant it has changed and how it would affect the actual permit itself, or the special or conditional use permit.
Clear? All right. Is there any other questions? Okay, I'm going to make we need to close the public hearing, so I'm going to make a motion to close that.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Okay, is there any other further questions or comments for staff or anyone?
Commissioner Rippon, I'm not sure that I feel comfortable making a decision on this today. Would you be all right if we held any action off?
I would, if you want to make a motion to defer.
Yeah, I
For a
would
week,
move that we defer action, and I don't have a specific date but I mean, you're the chairman, so whenever you decide to put it on the agenda, I guess.
I would be okay with deferring it for a week.
Okay.
Next Monday.
So that would be the 9th?
Yeah, I believe so.
9th. Okay. All right. I will make a motion that we defer action on this item till the 9th. I have a second?
Yep, second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Before we go to the next item, if there are members of the public that wish to contact the county, they would still be able to do so through either the county office, county commission office, or to the county commissioners directly. I would hope that, again, there is the ability to, if there's additional, after investigation and review, if we have questions, when we take this item up, we would be able to ask the applicant if there are additional questions that come up.
okay. Thank you very much. All right, Madam Clerk. Oh, got a
Commissioner, would you mind if after this meeting we had an executive session to consult with our legal counsel on this item?
I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Madam Clerk, what's our next item?
Item B2, public hearing and consider approval of resolution number 2020-60, the rezoning of properties at 2040, 2120, and 2138 Northwest Minokan Road from I-2 Heavy Industrial to RR1 Residential Reserve District.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a request by Mr. Hare to downzone the zoning of his property and two other adjoining properties from I-2 Heavy Industrial down to RR1.
Good, Randy, wait a minute. Would you, Steve, would you ask them to go outside? Okay. I'm sorry, Randy. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to give you your bearings, Minokan Road is basically the dividing line between RR1 zoning to the west and heavy industrial to the east. These three homesteads have existed in this configuration for at least the last 100 years. Mr. Hare owns the property at 2040, where I've got to highlight it on the cursor, and at the request of staff, he asked the other two adjoining owners to the north if they would be a party to this request, because they're all three in the same situation. Just to give you one other point of bearing, US 24 is just off the screen to the north. So this is an area that is rapidly flipping to heavy industrial right now, north of the tracks anyway. And there's also another major plant to the south of this property. So one day everybody understands that this property is going to eventually be heavy industrial at some point. However, at this point, we have no objection to letting these properties remain as they are for a couple of reasons. One is because they're too small as they exist right now to do anything else but have a homestead on each of the properties. Collectively, they don't occupy any more than 4.2 acres of land. And we have talked to the owner to the east, and they're not opposed to the property being downzoned to the RR1 district. They feel it wouldn't have any bearing on any property, any development they wanted to have on their property. So basically the concern of the owners is that if in the event that there was a natural disaster or a fire or some other catastrophe, they wouldn't be able to rebuild their homes on the property. So they would like to be afforded the opportunity to have that right to do that without having to fight for the downzoning at such time as something were to occur. We as staff don't have any objection with the downzoning and find it actually appropriate given the size of the property. The Planning Commission also heard the item on October 12th and had the same conclusion. So they did recommend approval by unanimous vote. One thing I would say is that the county engineer did recommend that additional right-of-way be requested or required along the entirety of this property to widen Jennings Road. I mean, from Minokan Road. Everybody understands that at some point this is going to be a significant road, given you have industrial development to the south of this property and industrial development to the north of the property. The commission at that point didn't feel like, given the fact that the owner, Mr. Hare, was trying to dispose of his father's estate and is asking only to maintain the status quo and not intensify the development of the property, and that the staff encouraged him to ask the owners to the north to be party of this, just to avoid the appearance of this being a spot zone. They didn't feel that we should require additional right-of-way given those circumstances. So the recommendation from the Planning Commission is to approve as requested, and staff would concur with that recommendation and be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Hare is here if you have any questions of him.
Randy, what's the current zoning for these three properties?
I-2.
Okay. And each one of them has a residence on there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They've been on there, and they've been there since, in some cases, since 1910, 1930. So it's a long-standing homestead on each of the properties.
Any other questions?
I'll move that we open the hearing.
Okay. I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We'll hear from all of those that are in favor of this change.
I'm Steve Hare, 5102 Northwest Levy Road, Topeka. Yeah, these homesteads been there for, like I said, the one is actually an old schoolhouse, 1901, but they're well-maintained properties. They're not dilapidated or nothing. And like I said, if something happens to them, you know, you can't rebuild if you get, well, I think it's like 50% of the appraised value. And so that's the whole deal with this. I'm the executor of my father's estate, that his house, he put a lot of work into it and everything. It's pretty neat, 2-story house. And, you know, it's actually, we're selling that property, and without this, the underwriters won't, you know, go with it. You know, the rezoning, so. I found this part out, so that's why I'm here.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak in favor of this zoning change? All right, do I have anybody here that's opposed to this zoning change? All right, I will make a motion to close our public comments, our public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. So, any additional questions?
No. Motion to approve the request.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item B3, public hearing and consider approval of resolution number 2020-61, a conditional use permit to allow a 170-foot tall wireless communication tower at 4848 Northwest Jennings Road in Minokan Township.
Thank you again, Commissioner Randy Anderson, Planning Department. The location of the property is just a little lease area. It's 50 by 50. It's shown on the overhead. It'd be accessed from Jennings Road via a utility and access easement that would provide driveway access off the road to the property. There you see the aerial property map. There's only a couple owners who received notice of this request. We've heard from one across the street. She was opposed to the request. We haven't heard back from her saying that she was going to file any kind of petition. One was not received. But here you see the property. It really is a very small cell site, as opposed to having the little box, the little building on the bottom of the tower. You will have 4 pads that are located at grade, where you have up to 4 carriers can put their equipment box on the base of the tower, and then there will already be co-location mounts that would be installed with the tower when it's built. So if T-Mobile or another carrier or somebody wanted to be on this tower, they could just, it's already turnkey. There are pads there on the bottom, and their mount is there on top. So it'd be this, because of this design, this is one that if you were to approve it, it would not require a limited approval for a couple of years to see if they've proven they've tried to encourage co-location. By providing it on the ground, providing it on the tower, they will have met the obligation of the telecommunication section of your zoning ordinance. We have received a letter from the structural engineer who will be involved in the construction of the tower, proving that the collapse zone of the property will be contained on the property. They've met their setback requirement for that collapse area. So they've done everything. They're proposing to have done everything in accordance with the telecommunications section of the zoning ordinance. So everything is in order. Here you see the property. They've indicated that the tree line to the south will remain as is. There's no need to have any change to that. So that provides a little more buffering of the base of the tower. Here you see Jennings Road. It's basically unimproved at this location. The county engineer has requested some additional right-of-way for the eventual widening of the road, and the applicant has accepted that condition of approval. So this is basically where the cell tower would be located if it's approved. You know, right now, you'd be looking at where it's gonna be placed. So, all that said, we've adopted these conditions at the planning commission in October that we received a clearance from the FAA about the tower height. We have the fall zone letter from the engineer of record. They will submit a Class A drainage report, and it will dedicate right of way and a Pan A drainage, a driveway permit along with the utility access easement that will lead them onto this property. They have agreed also that the gravel driveway would have minimal fines, so this would not be a site that would create a whole bunch of dust, given its elevation of those surrounding properties. We've been doing that regularly on all these kind of requests where a gravel surface covers the property. The height we limit to 170 feet, and the use shall be operated in accordance with the narrative they submitted with the application. So with that, the planning commission recommended approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the conditions or any part of the request. I think the applicant is here. There he is over there. So,
Is this a standalone tower, no guy wires? Or?
yes, it's a monopole tower. Show you.
All right. Any other questions? I will move to open this item for public
Second.
comment. Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have someone here that wants to speak in favor of this zoning change? Or conditional use permit, excuse me.
Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Trevor Wood, and I'm with SSC. We have offices at 7171 West 95th Street, Suite 600 in Overland Park, Kansas, 66212. I think Mr. Ortega pretty well covered the essence of what we're applying for. The need emanates from one of the major carriers, our co-applicant, Verizon Wireless, attempting to fill coverage technicality that they've been having for some extended period of time in this area as this, I've heard a lot of discussion of North Topeka growing and the like. And this is designed to alleviate service problems that Verizon is having, which is especially important in this day and age as folks move to remove their landlines and go to using their cell phones. Obviously, more and more people are using their cell phones for data services as well, using them as hotspots, being able to have, cable connectivity, those types of things through the phone device. In terms of the area itself, I will say that we did a thorough scrub of the area in conjunction with KSA 66-2019F118, which was recently adopted by the state of Kansas and sets out guidelines for the approval of these types of projects. We had initially come in and spoken with Mr. Ortega and his staff about another site that was closer to 75 Highway that was ultimately eliminated due to a restrictive covenant that limited the use of that property to commercial buildings only, banks and the like. And so needless to say, we've done an extremely thorough vetting of this area for over a year now. And we do have a signed lease with the property owner. We feel this is a really good site because it has great screening to the south with a huge stand of trees that are 60 to 70 feet tall, and really no existing residential development to speak of north or west that would be impacted by the visual nature of this. There's a public safety issue, obviously, with people being able to make reliable 911 phone calls and those types of things from their cell phone. So it's a good project all around. I think we've all come to accept that cell towers are definitely a necessity in this day and age, and we all, most all of us carry cell phones. So with that, I'm available for any questions that the commission has. If there's any members of the public that have questions, if I could have the opportunity to respond, I would be most appreciative.
Any questions? Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this item? Okay, are there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition of this proposal? All right, seeing none.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would move to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Any other additional comments or questions?
I'd move to approve the CUP.
I'll second.
I think we already did by closing and adopting the resolution.
Oh, I
Okay,
didn't
we did
hear
one
that.
action.
Okay.
That is, okay.
All right then.
Just sped it up for us a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, or Madam Clerk, what's
Thank you
next?
thank you for the promotion.
All right, there'll be no pay raise. So.
Item C, Public Works, number 1, consider approval of request to solicit bids for the demolition and removal of 2 closed and abandoned truss bridge structures, Northwest 45th Street Bridge over Cross Creek and Northwest 42nd Street Bridge over Cross Creek, located southwest of the city of Rossville, with an estimated cost of $50,000 to be paid from the Public Works Special Bridge Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. Before you on the aerial, we have 2 derelict bridges. They've been there for quite some time. In fact, the Northwest 46th Street Bridge, it became unusable in approximately 1979, 1980. I guess the city of Rossville was concerned about the Northwest 46th Street Bridge falling into Cross Creek and doing some harm to stream flows. Staff and I went up and looked at the 2 structures shown on the aerial, and it's probably a good time to remove both structures. This is the 42nd Street Bridge. It still has a deck. It consists of a central pony truss span with 2 approach spans. I've walked across this bridge. I would not recommend any other member of the public being on it. There are areas that you can fall through the deck, so I think probably it is a somewhat of a risk to Shawnee County to leave this bridge in place. And then we have a bridge at 46th Street. It's a major truss. Again, it was in operation up until approximately 1979 or 1980. The 2 approach spans are no longer there. I suppose if there's a will or a way, someone could get on that bridge. It should come out. And with that, take your questions. The clerk already talked about the estimated cost to remove both structures. There is one complication at this bridge site in that we have some utility overhead power lines, but obviously the contractor can work with the utility to mitigate that risk. With that, I look forward to your questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
In the past, when we've had issues with bridges and removal of bridges, there's been issues with lead paint or other items dropping into the water source with KDHE. Are we going to have any of those issues with either of these 2 structures?
I don't believe so. For example, the bridge at 42nd Street, the 2 approaches, they're predominantly timber. The trusses may have a lead paint on them, but I think what the contractor can do is basically lift the truss and just put it down on the ground. So I see very little debris, lead paint falling into Cross Creek.
Okay.
I don't believe that will be an issue.
Just want to make sure that we touched on that, and then whether or not there would be any liability to the county in the removal by,
Our standard contracts would apply. I don't believe once the contract is let, the contractor, it would be a work zone, and the contractor would be responsible for the safety of the area.
okay. All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions?
No.
I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item C2, consider approval of requests to submit permit applications for pipeline or wire line crossing and/or longitudinal to the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway for the traffic signal systems upgrade at South Topeka Boulevard at Southwest 57th Street, Southwest University Boulevard, and Southwest Gary Ormsby Drive at a cost of $800 each for a total of $2,400 paid to BNSF utilizing the project account fund.
Courtney House, Director of Public Works. As you know, we are presently working with the Kansas Department of Transportation on a project to improve the traffic signals at the 3 intersections that the county clerk mentioned. The design work is pretty much complete. The letting is presently scheduled for June of 2021. But before we can let that project, we need to get railroad permits. And the reason for that is the existing traffic control devices, the poles are anchored in railroad right-of-way, and the new poles will have similar footings in railroad right-of-way. Also, we have conduit, electrical conduit, that will have to traverse the right-of-way underneath the tracks. And so we need a permit for that, and we have to apply for these permits with the railroad, and that costs $800 for each location. So I'm here before you with a request to, number one, apply for those permits, and number two, to provide a check, $800 each, a separate check for each location, be provided to the railroad so that they can process those permits. Questions?
Questions?
Nope. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item D, Human Resources, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C441-2020 with the City of Topeka for the use of their fitness center, which includes a $20 enrollment fee and a minimum quarterly fee of $275 for the first 25 employees.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis with Human Resources. As part of our health and wellness, we offer our county employees access to the city's gym. This is the contract to renew it, and we would hope you'd approve today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Move for approval.
I think this is a good program. I like it. I shut that off once. Darn. It's not shutting off. Anyway, I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Thanks.
Thank you.
Item E, appraiser, number 1, consider approval of request to post and fill a vacant GIS Tech 1 position at a minimum starting salary of $53,061.20, including benefits, with funding from the departmental budget.
Good morning, Commissioner. Steve Bauman, County Appraiser. We're having a long-term employee decide that we'd like to spend this time on the retirement side. So we're asking to fill this very essential position. It's the very basis of our land records and ownership layers and things like that in our GIS system, as well as in our appraisal system. Discussed this with Human Resources, and I think we got the numbers correct, and there are funds in our budget to account for it. So appreciate the ability to fill this position.
Any questions? I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Steve. Next item.
Item F, Parks and Recreation, number 1, consider approval of request to solicit bids for the project budget totaling approximately $31,633.36 to remove existing poles and power lines and relocation and burial of 2 new power lines at Crestview Park utilizing operating funds.
Good morning, Chris Curtis, Parks and Recreation. Before you today is a request to go out for approval for bids for a project to remove the existing wooden power poles and relocation of the existing power to serve both the center and the shelter. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are these the power lines that are on the south side of the parking lot?
Correct. They run all the way from the east to the west along the sidewalk.
Okay. Any other questions? I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next item.
Item F2, consider authorization and execution of contract C442-2020, a terms and conditions agreement with Play Power LT Farmington, Inc., for the sole source purchase of a playground replacement parts totaling $627.05 with funding for the department's operating budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeremy Myers, Parks and Recreation. That piece of playground equipment that we need to purchase, so that needed repair, and we're just going to order a new piece from Little Tykes Playgrounds at Garfield Park. And right now it's boarded up, so we are taking preventative measures to keep it safe and still open, but we need to get the place repair needed in the order of the part. So
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item. Thank you.
Item G, Facilities Maintenance, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C443-2020 with TD Wilson Painting to award RFP 071-20 for commercial painting services at an hourly rate of $26 with 0% markup as on supplies. Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. This item essentially gets us into a trade services agreement with TD Wilson off a different RFP from the trade services I brought to you last week. This one was just a little later. Any questions you might have?
Any questions?
I'll move for approval.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item G2, consider approval to submit a request for pricing for the custodial services at Shawnee County Courthouse, North Annex Elections Office, Law Enforcement Center, and both Health Department locations. Good morning, Commissioners. This particular item is for our custodial services. Once again, we've got a contract that's going to be expiring at the end of January in 2021. I'd like to move forward with a RFP so we can get some pricing and see if we can do better than we've been doing, or at least stay the same. Answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I'll move for approval.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item G3, consider approval of request to advertise and fill a maintenance technician position at a salary of $53,275.86, including benefits, with funding from the departmental budget. John Telshaw last week on Friday kind of burst into the office with all of his stuff finally done and said, I'm out of here. So as of today, we are a position short in the facilities maintenance. This would refill that position.
Any questions?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item G4, consider authorization and execution of contract C444-2020 with Siemens Industries for fire alarm system upgrades at Manor Conference Center at a bid cost of $18,936, utilizing 2020 contingency funds.
Siemens did come back with us on this RFP that we put out and came in with a lower price than we'd anticipated from their initial estimate on the repairs to that fire alarm system at Manor. We need to get this one done, otherwise Manor would not be in compliance with current fire safety codes. Answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item G5, consider approval of request to award the bid to A1 Lock and Key for the amount of $26,165.94 for the replacement of existing doorknob sets at the courthouse with ADA lever operators utilizing CARES Act funding, and authorization and execution of contract C445-2020 for same.
This particular item on the CARES Act would allow us to put ADA-type lever sets and panic hardware in the courthouse that requires no touch by the hands. You can open ADAs with your arms, your elbows, and panic handles. You are basically by design can be used with your hips, rear ends, anything else to get those things open. So this would move us forward with that particular item at the courthouse. We did ask in that RFP for pricing per each for Parks and Rec and other locations, but none of the vendors came back with any pricing for that. They stuck just with the courthouse. Answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? I'll
Move
for.
to- Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll second.
All right, motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Thank you.
Item H, solid waste. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C446-2020 with Routeware, Inc. for the purchase of the Routeware system to automate their current route management and dispatching process to maximize efficiencies with an initial expenditure of $224,141.50 with a monthly subscription of $4,270.75 with funding from the 2020 solid waste collections operational budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Sutton, Shawnee County Solid Waste. The department is looking to automate our current route management and dispatching procedures. This particular software will help us maximize our route efficiencies, optimize the utilization of our route employees, and improve our customer service. For approximately the last 25 years, my ladies have been printing out this package of paper every day. This is our route books for our recycle and our solid waste routes. We give these to our drivers, and then they have to navigate through these, try to make sense of them, and then mark them up. And then at the end of the day, my my ladies upstairs go back through them and see if there's any corrections. Very inefficient, very confusing to our new drivers, because then they got to try to navigate through this. We're seeking to automate this by providing tablets inside the vehicles. All the routes will be electronically managed. Any corrections to the routes will be instantaneous, and we'll be able to have visibility on the. We'll install cameras on these vehicles for increased safety and just better route management. This is way overdue, and I think now is the time that we should pursue this. The initial $224,141.50 includes the first year of service with a reoccurring annual or monthly subscription fee of $4,270.75. This will all come from the solid waste collections budget, which is 100% user fee funded and no tax money used for this. We are purchasing this product through Routeware, which belongs to the cooperative, which is in line with the county's purchasing policy. We approached our IT department to see if this is something that could be done in-house. They were given a presentation as well, and this is not something that they could undertake at this time. So, pending your questions, gentlemen.
Any questions?
I'll move for approval.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item 5, administrative communications.
Okay, at this time, anybody would like to speak at this time can come forward.
You didn't leave.
Good morning, Commissioner. Bill Sutton, Shawnee County Solid Waste. Two announcemements. One, this being the first week in November, our monthly Saturday collection event at Household Hazardous Waste will kick off this weekend at 9 o'clock until noon. It is open to the public to drop off any hazardous waste that they might have around their house, to include electronic waste. It is free, the only exception being CRT monitors and TVs, and there's a small fee associated with them. The address is 131 Northeast 46th Street, and for more information, they can call 286-4381. Second announcement is, I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but tomorrow is Election Day, and there are a lot of election signs out there and election banners all over the county. I would like to remind the general public that those particular items are not recyclable, and we would like to find whatever they care to do with them. Just do not put them in any type of recycling bin or container. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? Amanda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Monholland, Shawnee County Public Information Officer. I am actually here today on behalf of the Shawnee County Health Department to announce their next drive-through clinic, which is a flu clinic that'll be on November 4th at New Mount Zion Baptist Church. This clinic is specifically for any adult individuals 19 years of age and over, regardless of insurance coverage. And again, this clinic is on Wednesday, November 4th, from 2 to 4 at the New Mount Zion Baptist Church, which is located at 2801 Southeast Indiana Avenue. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, I think we do have a need for an executive session. Commissioner Mays?
Yes, I would make a motion to go into executive session for a period not to exceed 10 minutes for the following reason. Consultation with attorney for the body, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Why don't we start that in about 5 minutes here? Give ourselves a little time to sign papers. Okay, we're back in session. No action was taken, so we're adjourned. Thank you.